Good morning, Bitcoiners. I hope you're doing well. I'm loving my life. Who could complain on a day like today? Not me. I'm not going to do it. It's not going to happen. We're doing great. It's Friday. JJ Fox, my great awakeners. Happy Friday. Let the coffee flow and the mugs rise. The sun is up and Bitcoin is still running. We're still doing great, everyone. We're having fun. We're having fun. Lead J369 says, good morning, Count and crew. Fuck yeah, it's Friday. We love it. Chef Zero says, peace be within you. Because of the house of the Lord and God, our God, I will seek your good. Psalm 122:6-9. By chance, I'm not sure if you're also, I didn't know if you're also Chef Zero going under the name Veterans Cannabis Advocacy Group 5401. It's the same biblical passage for this morning. Peace be within you. So there we go. We have it here on the board on both chats. It's happening on both chats. Incredible coincidence or double posting, both of which we like. Good day, beautiful Bampians. Indeed, Chef Zero. Hope you're doing well. Looking forward to today's lesson, Professor, says Lance 2002. We're going to have a fun time today. We're talking about persuasion again. Of course, Jesus is King 04. Good morning, crew. Shout out the Met Gala this weekend. So many experts in one spot. Actor experts are the best. Happy Friday. We had a good time with them. Looks like Snow White took too much cocaine and did the meme. I don't know if you guys saw it, but she had this meme that went around because of the Snow White movie where her jaw is locked and just this really weird like this. And everyone says yesterday or during the Met Gala that she took a bunch of cocaine, and when she was doing the photo thing, her jaw was doing the cocaine dance, and everyone's saying that she was basically ODing on that stuff. You know, I got to enjoy the Met in a private function as well once, not with all the fancy clothes, but well, it's just a party. But some law firm rented it all when I was living in New York, and we got to just hang out there and party. It was a lot of fun. It would have been right around the time of Consensus 2018, if I'm remembering it correctly. So right around this time, it would have been around the time of the Met Gala. It would have been in May 2016. Wacky Digital 21 says, good morning all. Indeed, John Otoro in the house too. Good morning, John. I hope you're doing well. We got more folks. What? God is with us. Indeed, JJ Fox. Yes. Yeah, funny, huh? I don't know. I'm waiting to hear more about it. Yo, Chatelet, Escape the Matrix. Hope you're doing well. Today we find out that half the people we know are actually aliens. I'm one of them, guys. My DNA was spliced with aliens. There you go. Chatelet, no complaining today. Triple exclamation points. That's what we got going on. Good morning and Nolan and Great Awakening crew. That's an odd coincidence, guys. Yeah, I think it is a coincidence. I mean, if Veterans Cannabis and Chef Zero can speak up in the chat and let me know if it is a coincidence, but I got two biblical passages shared this morning that are the same. I have a feeling it's just Chef Zero double posting though. Good morning, Bitcoiners. Indeed, I made it. I have to go see Sludge People all day. Sergio, 21 million. You're in the house. I have Alien and Tiger Blood. T-Dog Yodo, half tiger. That's a really good mix. You're like the Thundercats. You're a Thundercat. Feel the thunder, hear the roar. Thundercats are loose. God works in mysterious ways, Jack 2K. Sure does. Sure does. Chef is cheating. We'll find out. We'll find out soon. We'll get the answer. We'll get the answer. He's either posting under two names in two different chats, watching the show on two different streams, or we have a wonderful serendipitous synchronistic from God coincidence this morning. We're going to go with the from God coincidence because we love those. So there you go. There you go. Chef is double streaming, says Lee J369. Yeah, that's your bet. Double streaming. Yeah, some people double stream. You know, you got to double stream sometimes. Got to do it. You got to do it. I've been accused of double streaming myself. There you go. I got to double stream because I got to see what's going on all the different channels here. So we're double and triple streaming. I still have to figure out how to get this live chat on the. Can I sidecar it? No, that just takes it away. What's this sidecar button? The dock chat? No, that just erases it. What does that button do? Nothing. Anybody see the new He-Man movie trailer? Looks not good. I don't know. So far looking good. Just testing for quantum echoes. Got it. Yeah. Tom Luongo not coming today. Next Friday. Sorry about that. Signs and signals 948. I stayed on yesterday after I cut the broadcast. I came back in a panic to let you guys know because everyone was telling me how excited they were about the Tom Luongo thing, and I forgot to tell you guys yesterday we had to move it to next Friday. So that's what's going on. So I came back on yesterday after the logo and the thanks for watching screen had already played to update you all, but it'll be next Friday. We'll have a good time. There's no Canada show this afternoon. That's partly why Tom already had to switch from the morning to the Canada show, and the Canada show not going to work today. So we moved it all till next week, and we'll bring Tom, not in the morning show. We'll bring him around for the Canada show in the afternoon, and we'll have a good time. I'm no doubting double crossing. You can't triple stream a double stream, Chef. No, you can't. I have my own prediction. He turned on the show on his desktop, but then nature called and hopped on his phone while on the toilet, says JJ Fox. Happens all the time. I'll watch the He-Man movie in hopes to see who has been cast as Adora, known by her alter ego She-Ra. Yes. I mean, it might suck. But so far, I like the weird cartoony aesthetic, and if they really do have fun with He-Man and all of the gender stuff, and it's not a woke movie, then it will be a huge success. If they somehow are faking this gender stuff and it ends up being woke garbage and Tila is really the hero and She-Ra is really the hero, then it's going to suck big time and no one's going to go. I don't think that's going to happen, though. I think we'll be okay. Good morning, Bitcoiners. Tommy DOU. We got Europe update today. Is there hope for the Europores? We're talking about Europe today. Yeah, there's hope. Europe's going to be fine, guys. It's going to work out for them now that they're realizing that their woke stuff isn't working and their brainwashing isn't working and their fiat economics aren't working. They're going to have to get real, and their threats are real. So if they don't get real, then it's just all going to be Russia, and I don't really care. I'm not going to stop it. If that's the way that heads, that's the way it heads. Because all that stuff I've been saying for the past couple of years in response to European talking points, but don't you think Russia is going to go take Europe? I said until now, no. What are you talking about? But pretty soon, yeah. Why would they stop? These people are so poor and useless. Why wouldn't Russia take them at this point? I don't think it was true back when they said it was going to be the result of not stopping Russia at Ukraine back in 2022. But at this point, things have changed. People talking about Luongo schooled the Simply Bitcoin Boys audience who don't understand politics. I didn't know if he did that. I didn't see the Simply Bitcoin, but that's another reason why I was happy to move it. He'd already done 2 Bitcoin-ish podcasts this week, so I'll get them fresh next week. I caught Project Hail Mary at the theater in Austin. It was excellent, says Charlosky. Indeed. I'm interested in seeing that. People said it was good. I do like the Andy Weir books. So he's another one of these people that made it without the legacy publishing industry. So interesting guy. Quantum bleed through, yeah, the quantum bleed through. Not watching TV. I don't see these movie advertisements. I don't watch TV either. I just see them on the internet. I've always been a movie trailer fan. I think movies are now just trailers. That's the only thing interesting left about movies. It's the actual trailers. I think, in fact, I know one of you in the audience has sent me a link to join a contest where you got to make a futurism movie trailer. So your idea of the future, and then you make a trailer, and there's a whole bunch of prizes. I'm going to do a Bitcoin one. I don't have to get it done until like August, but I'll get it done much earlier than that. I've already started a bit of it. So thanks for sending me that. And we like trailers. So we're going to be doing the trailers. Spencer Pratt likes trailers. His trailers are great. We're going to talk about them today. But before we get going, let's acknowledge that is a sunrise. We have operational SunTech gray again here today. Those 2 days of sun that we just had were a nice break in the gray, but I'm definitely doubting my return time for next year. I think we got back too early this year. I've been in the grayness for over a month. Even my last week in Las Vegas hasn't been enough to set me straight. I'm having trouble with the lack of sun, but we'll be okay. We'll be okay. And I checked, guys, Bitcoin is indeed running. We're at over 80,000 US trash tokens, but dipping a little bit this morning. 80,000 US trash tokens for a Bitcoin. Let's have a coffee and talk about what's new. Coke Jaw, yeah. Learn something new every day. Never heard of Hail Mary and didn't know about the He-Man movie, says CB Van. Yeah, Hail Mary looks good. A lot of people say it's good. Just a plain old movie, fun. People liked it. I saw it as a movie about Bitcoiners. Highly recommend. I need to read the books. Okay, yeah. I didn't read Hail Mary, but I did read a few of his books when he got going because I was very interested in that. About 10 years ago. A little over 10 years ago, when all of the e-publishing got going and got started, Hugh Hewitt and a few others managed to break through the old publishing choke points, and looks good. So I'll check it out. Now, if He-Man's good, then maybe movies are back, but we'll see. They ain't going to be from Star Wars. We're talking about Star Wars today. Not going great. It's not going great. Speaking of it's not going great, let's talk about NPC news. It's not going great. It's not going great. They're having some trouble. Let's look in. This first one here is very confusing as well for the sludge people. You're going to see what I'm talking about in a second. We got a lot of stories here. Hold on. Why is this all backwards? God damn it. I don't even know how some of these work sometimes. All right. This is what we got, guys. Think tank's shareholder proposal attacks Pennsylvania-based Dick's Sporting Goods. So Dick's Sporting Goods supporting transgenderism. It's an excellent headline. However you want to interpret it, it's just perfect. Dick's Sporting Goods supporting transgenderism. All right. So Dick's support transgenderism. Right. Dick's support transgenderism. So that's the actual headline here. The bottom line is that for one of those political issues that companies have no business being in, just sell sporting goods. That's what people want. So Dick's wants to just sell sporting goods, or someone is telling them that they should just sell sporting goods and not support transgenderism. Dick's Sporting Goods, tools needed for sports and supporting transgenderism. It's a real headline, everyone. A real headline. Dick's support cutting off Dick's escape the matrix. Yes, it looks like it. Yes. Equipment. It's an equipment management question, right? It's just equipment. Dick's, Dickless Sporting Goods. No, it's Dick's. Sticks. Come on. Great news, everyone. This is an actual fresh story. I had to check it a few times. I know you woke up today, Lee J 369 in Alberta, and you were like, oh shit, what's going on with COVID in Alberta? You'll be lucky to know, you'll be happy to know fewer Albertans are dying due to COVID-19, statistics show. But experts warn the risk isn't gone. It's not funny. 125 people have died of COVID since the end of August. That's what people are saying. I can't believe this is a news story, but it's true. This is what we got here. This is what we got. They're still tracking the deaths, and it's getting great. We got fewer people dead. So, Alberta, you're winning. You're winning. You're winning. You're winning. Only a few hundred dead. Future seasons. So, congratulations, Albertans. Fewer people dying of COVID in Alberta. Other people are dying, though. We got the hantavirus, and you're not going to believe it. U.S. departure from WHO could hinder the hantavirus response. The country left the World Health Organization in January. Because of that, experts say the U.S. might not get immediate access to surveillance and contact tracing information. We're not going to get it, guys. We're not going to get the contract. We're not going to find out what flights they put all the hantavirus people on. We're not going to find out now. We're going to lose. We get this. The organizer of Texas Muslim-only water park event runs a misspelled leering center. This is a true story, guys. She's got a leering center all her own. How many leering centers are there? Is it a brand name? Are we all going to leering centers now? So we got another leering center organizer winner here. Leering centers. We love them. Wouldn't you know it? Donald Trump, who did not himself go to a leering center, is mentally unfit and should be removed from office, declares group of leading physicians. Trump's mental instability and sole authority to launch nuclear weapons make him a clear and present danger, one doctor said. Mindsight News. That's what we got. I think all you Bitcoiners would say, you know, something's going on. America's debt is soaring under Trump. Yes, it matters. It didn't matter when Joe Biden did it, but now it matters. The president has put us on a path toward destabilization, with the national debt now eclipsing the size of the entire U.S. economy. Hans Monkey asks, has Rolling Stone ever talked about Biden in the net? Of course not. Of course not. But guys, now it matters. Okay, now it matters because it's Republican debt. So now it matters. This one here, the next one is just perfect, guys. This is just classic. We don't get these as much as we used to. We used to get these types of headlines before. We just don't get as much of them anymore. This one's great. Kyle Rittenhouse, who gained fame, everyone, for opening fire at a 2020 civil rights rally. He just went to the everyone at the civil rights rally, I'm going to shoot you motherfuckers. You assholes. You're at a civil rights rally. Die. That was Kyle Rittenhouse. That's what he did. He went and just opened fire. He just got up and started shooting people. Civil rights rally. That's what it was. Yes, everyone remembers the civil rights rallies in the summer of 2020. They were great, right? Now he's been hospitalized after he was bitten by a venomous spider, the noted firearms enthusiast says. Civil rights rally, guys. He just opened fire. He just fucking walked into a civil rights. Die, all you civil rights people. Die. That's pretty funny. So, who cares about the context, right? Sometimes context just doesn't matter. Like in this story, right? Look at this story about ICE agents storm Disney cruise docking in California. It's a story about ICE agents, right? And they arrested multiple staff in front of stunned passengers. Okay, so they went and arrested a bunch of people, stunned passengers, they say. These were stunned passengers, right? ICE is another one of those ICE stories. Whoa, really ruin everyone's cruise vibes, right? These are people, this isn't even a hantavirus cruise. This is a Disney cruise, right? Much better than a hantavirus cruise. And everyone was there just to have fun, right? Oh, but wait a minute, right? Wait a minute. What? So they went in, but there's a note. There's a community note. The arrests of the cruise ship crew, including from Disney Magic, were part of a CBP operation targeting possession and distribution of child exploitation material. What? What? I excuse me. I thought this was just ICE ruining people's good time on a cruise ship without hantavirus. Are you suggesting that the cruise ship was filled and crewed with a bunch of pedophiles? A Disney cruise filled with pedophiles? Okay. Well, sometimes context might matter. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe sometimes context does matter. And everyone, speaking of context mattering in these stories, right? Speaking of context mattering in these stories, the Pulitzer Prize was awarded. A Pulitzer Prize in photography was awarded yesterday. It was for the person who took this picture here of this starving baby. And wait a minute, what? The New York Times admits Gaza boy famine photo hoax? What? Excuse me, what? What? It turns out that almost every Pulitzer Prize is actually given for fake news. So it's actually really the award for best NPC news story, headline, or picture. And you didn't know that, but now you know. So indeed, the whole Gaza Pulitzers, all this stuff, Pulitzers in general, just mostly a hoax. I've got a few stories here from Scott Adams that I'll play with, that I'll read for you guys, and go over, because Scott Adams took aim at the Pulitzer Prize over the last few years of his life. So let me just close these fake news stories so they're not in my way. The Kyle Rittenhouse one's good. I opened fire. Shot them. He was at a civil rights rally. He just had to shoot people. No choice. All right, let me take a sip of coffee and let's get into the Pulitzer Prize. Yeah, you just don't get so many of those ones anymore, unfortunately. We used to, in the Joe Biden years, it was every day we had one of those like Kyle Rittenhouse style fake news stories. We just don't get them anymore. We got to go and deal with the Pulitzer Prize. So, yeah, apparently it's been years now that every single Pulitzer Prize that's given is just for fake news and for hoaxes. Here on this picture of the Gaza baby, the New York Times Gaza photographer Sahir Al-Gora just won the Pulitzer Prize in breaking news photography. The images are powerful, but they also invite closer inspection. One bears the markings of staging, another required coordination with terrorists, not to mention his social media record, which contains language that mirrors Hamas. The question the Pulitzer Committee never asked: when does storytelling end and journalism begin? So this is what we know about the pictures themselves. The Pulitzer Prize just named New York Times photographer Sahir Al-Gora the winner of the breaking news one. And it's for that starving child picture. One of the winning photos shows 2-year-old Yazan Abu Al-Fawl as the face of the starving crisis supposedly caused by Israel. Photos from the same day show other healthy children, one caption even noting that malnutrition is worsened by pre-existing conditions. So the kid was, sick. But images that provided context, including those of healthy family members, were left out. No way. Are you telling me they removed context? No, I don't believe it. Are you telling me that they took out context from news stories, that the legacy news removed context? I can hardly believe it. The same mother and child were repeatedly shot by multiple agencies in near identical poses. This raises serious questions about staging, consent, and how this boy was turned into the famine poster child. Another award-winning image shows Hamas terrorists in Khan Yunis carrying what is reportedly the body of an Israeli hostage. But how can a photographer gain access at such a moment without coordinating with Hamas? Indeed, more stories of it getting broken down here. By honoring Sahar, the Pulitzers aren't rewarding courageous war photography. They're legitimizing Hamas-led narratives built on emotional manipulation, stage imagery, and unrivaled access to terrorists. One day, people will ask how this passed as journalism. Not only journalism, it won the Pulitzer. Now, a little bit on the Pulitzer. So, even going back just a few years ago, remember, of course, they gave the Pulitzer to the folks doing the Russia, Russia, Russia. Here's Glenn Greenwald reminding us after the prize was awarded, a special counsel, Robert S. Mueller, investigating the Russian interference allegations, said he could find no evidence that Mr. Trump or his aides had coordinated with the interference efforts. They just basically ignored that the New York Times had to admit that the stories through which they won a Pulitzer were all bullshit, fake news. Scott Adams here talks about his own personal encounters with the Pulitzer, and he learned a lot through his encounters. He says, I wanted to win a Pulitzer until I learned years ago how they are decided. It's just a small group of people saying what books they like from those submitted by authors and publishers that year. That's it. It's the emptiest of honors. You have to apply for yourself. You have to actually apply to win. They don't just look for the best and reward the best. They take applications. Here's Scott reminding us, you have to apply to be considered for the Pulitzer. I applied once in 36 years of cartooning. They don't love repeating who gets it, and new cartoon stars are rare. Results: stick around long enough, apply every year, satisfy DEI, and you're nearly guaranteed. Everyone better already won or didn't bother applying. Let's not forget who won. Now that we're still on the question of context being removed, Darren Bell, Pulitzer-winning cartoonist, faces child charges. More than 100 videos of all of that stuff, some of which were computer generated, have been connected to Mr. Bell 49. He's one of the people that was very happy when we found out that Scott Adams was sick. Very happy when Scott Adams got fired. Here's another one of those stories. Here's Emma Jo Morris, a Montrealer, the person who broke the Hunter Biden laptop story back in the day, saying here, people always tell me I should have won a Pulitzer, which is very flattering. But if the day comes that I have any prizes from the journalism establishment, you should all immediately turn on me and tune me out. Scott Adams again reminds, the Pulitzer is some lefties sitting around asking each other what books they liked most, and that they want to signal they liked most from a smallish list of nominees who bothered to do the paperwork. How did that ever sound prestigious? It's not. It's not. He says again here, the Pulitzer is the least prestigious prize of all time. I wanted to win one until I found out that it was just some eggheads reading 0.0001% of what got created that year and decided they really personally liked it. Completely meaningless. And here he goes further to share this story. Here's a look behind the curtain at the corrupt media and the Pulitzer Prize that is worth exactly nothing. This is a must read. And here you have this from 2002, Mark Hyman talking about just how stupid the Pulitzer is. Pulitzer honoring unhinged conspiracy theories. So it being given this year to a liar and a stager and a scammer in Gaza is no different than any other year. It's not some fall of the Pulitzer. This is what the Pulitzer has always been. We just haven't noticed. And it's exactly what Scott Adams is talking about. Several years ago, professional acquaintance shared his experience as a judge on the Pulitzer board. The entire existence of the Pulitzer Award, he explained to me, is to validate the work of the New York Times. He said it is expected the New York Times will be recognized in one or more categories. One year, the Times didn't win a particular award. We, the judges, thought it fell short of the competition, he said. The aftermath shocked him. We were called on the carpet. Pulitzer staff were furious with us. The Times was supposed to get this one award, we were told, and we screwed up, he related. This is amazing. Would you go on the record with this, I asked. Are you kidding me, he replied. I still have to work with these people. And indeed, I often think of this conversation when I see a reference to the Pulitzer. Many already had known the sad history of the Pulitzer Prize organization when irrefutable evidence was presented that confirmed the New York Times Moscow bureau chief Walter Duranty lied in his dispatches, covering up the Soviets' Holodomor genocide of the Ukrainian people that were recognized for the 1932 award. The Pulitzer organization refused to revoke the reward. Historian Mark Von Hagen of Columbia University, sponsor of the Pulitzer Award, reviewed Duranty's work and recommended the Pulitzer Board should take the prize away. The New York Times disagreed. The Pulitzer organization ignored the recommendation. Controversy continues today. The Pulitzer Board gave the 2018 award for national reporting jointly to the New York Times and Washington Post. The recognition was for their reporting of the alleged conspiring coordination and collusion between Donald Trump presidential campaign and the Russian government with the goal of electing Trump president at the expense of Hillary Clinton. The papers implied Trump and many in his inner circle were beholden to Putin. In bestowing the award, the Pulitzer judges praised the two papers the judges wrote for deeply sourced, relentlessly reported coverage in the public interest that dramatically furthered the nation's understanding of Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election and its connections to the Trump campaign, the president-elect's transition team, and his eventual administration. So it's been all bullshit for that long and deeply sourced. I mean, any kid could have told you back then it was a scam. Anyone could have told you it was, just a fake reward. And the real news is that it's just not persuading anyone anymore. More and more people understand it's not like the 1930s, and it's not like the Holodomor thing. People are finding out very quickly it's a bullshit award. And this is the kind of stuff the New York Times really does, right? Again, this is just to bring it full circle. It's one of our all-time classic NPC News passages. Mr. Kennedy, this was about RFK and Maha. Mr. Kennedy has singled out Fruit Loops as an example of a product with too many artificial ingredients, questioning why the Canadian version has fewer than the US version. But he was wrong. The ingredient list is roughly the same, although Canada's has natural colorings made from blueberries and carrots, while the US product contains red dye 40, yellow dye 5, blue 1, as well as butylated hydroxytoluene and BHT, or lab-made chemical that is used for freshness, according to the ingredient label. So this is who they are. They literally remove context. They do all of these things, and they conduct these types of persuasion techniques and psychological operations on a near daily, persistent, ever-present level. The good news for everyone around here is that it's getting weaker and weaker. People are noticing the trick. They're seeing how this stuff works. Even in shithole poor Europe, they're seeing it now. We get this from Germany. In Germany, a book is making waves this week. Der Wahrheitskomplex. Der Wahrheitskomplex. The Truth Complex, by Norbert Harang, a seasoned economic journalist, formerly the Handelsblatt, formerly FT Deutschland. His thesis, laid out in a long interview with the Berliner Zeitung. Since 2014, a dense network has been built in Europe. Administrators, NGO, fact checkers, transatlantic think tanks, military intelligence services to shape the public debate on sensitive topics. So this is news to Europe. This is brand new. We've been noticing that we're in this psychological war, and we're up to our eyeballs in psyops in North America, and brainwashing and nudging and all of these things. But Europe finally catching up. The Germans finally catching up here, and indeed it's making waves. So that's good news. You don't want to laugh at them while they're having these revelations, while they're waking up to their true nature of their systems in Europe. And here he calls it the truth complex, right? That these people are there to shape debate on sensitive public subjects. He describes a setup largely funded by public money. No way. No way. Can you believe it? Fiat money being used to brainwash and hypnotize people? I would have never guessed. And here we see, which carries out what a democratic state can't do directly without breaking its own rules: flagging, de-indexing, discrediting, marginalizing dissenting voices. At the heart of the system, the doctrine of hybrid warfare and cognitive warfare imported from the military world. Germany would have played a pioneering role in Europe. COVID and the war in Ukraine have served as accelerators. That's what I document here with the DSA, which is the culmination of this logic. And so here we got a French guy, this guy, JBG, who is he? Dad, entrepreneur, whistleblower since 2009. Freedom doesn't disappear all at once. It dissolves. He's got Flamme Liberté, so the flame of liberty. And he is spreading the word about this German book here, The Truth Complex. And of course, if you've been watching this show for any amount of time, you know that this is exactly what we talk about here. We've been talking about this bank-led world, this world of brainwashing that comes from fiat money, this top-down structure that is the confluence indeed of these NGOs and the architecture of deceit. But as we can see, just like in America, it stopped working at least around 2016 when Trump was elected the first time, and has had a lot of trouble since. It took the COVID pandemic in order to get the chain back on the gears, but that didn't last very long. And it in fact had a reverse effect in the end, because COVID ended up radicalizing even more people against this top down information structure. And you're starting to see this thing break all around the world. The elections in Europe, you can even look at what's going on in Germany with the AfD. You can look at all these places. And that's why you're seeing the system in Europe start reverting to these more and more desperate psychological operation tricks. As people understand the formula and the system, you're seeing more and more of a blatant and obvious attempt to do it. Here, now they're blaming VPNs for endangering children. This is the new thing. Virtual private networks are increasingly used to bypass online age verification. They're protecting the children again, guys. They're protecting the children again. And just as they notice in Europe that these old tricks aren't working, these psychological operations, they're trying to get involved in the meme wars. So yesterday, here they come out with a meme, the European Commission. The battle of narratives is going strong. Our countries are a recurring target. It is time to act, to tell the stories that make us strong. Let's live our own story, protect what matters, our democracy. So they're doing, again, which we've heard about for years now, the protecting democracy predicate. You heard me here describing Mike Benz in 2023 talk about the protecting democracy predicate, that it would be used perpetually going forward. So, of course, here they use the Spider-Man meme, and this is apparently to them what Paris looks like. And then if you're a crazy tinfoil hat with glasses that see the flat earth, then you look at Europe as a shithole. And only these people see it as a shithole. So pretty good attempt by Europe to get into the meme wars, but not really going to work. Probably too late, too weak in terms of the meme game. And I mean, just a zero, right? Just a zero. So we can see between the protect the kids, getting into the meme wars, you're seeing them try to advance the psychological operations. They can't rely on the New York Times. They can't rely on legacy media and a lot of the other architecture of deceit. It's all kind of breaking down. That's why they continue to threaten, for example, Elon Musk, right? Here you're seeing the threats to all American tech companies that are not going along with EU censorship. The EU won't back down. What needs to happen is Congress needs to give American companies the ability to shield themselves from foreign tech rules that burden the First Amendment in American courts with recourse to sovereign assets in the United States. This is Grover Norquist here saying what's going on. The EU is trying to hit our tech companies with digital services taxes because they don't own any tech companies of their own to tax. POTUS got Canada to back down. We joined 20 center-right groups asking for the same treatment for the EU. And indeed, it looks like the attempt to target Elon Musk is picking up for that reason. France is ramping up its investigation into ex-owner Elon Musk and his social media platform by announcing a slew of criminal charges. So they're going to charge Elon criminally. Ava Vlardingerbrook says here they're trying to get X banned before 2027 because there are elections coming up in France and they don't want this guy here to win. They need to silence patriotic voices and control the narrative. That's always what these attacks on Elon Musk and X are actually about. But again, simply not working. If you go and look at what's going on in Europe and the electoral scene over there, last night, the Reform Party, this is Nigel Farage's party. These are local elections. I don't really understand what local elections are in the United Kingdom. So I don't municipalities. I don't know. I don't know how exactly how the UK works. It's not really a federal Although there are separate states like Scotland and Wales and England and Northern Ireland, it's not set up like a federative body like in the United States. Like England is not some separate thing. It's all the United Kingdom. So I don't really know what local elections are exactly, but doesn't look good for Keir Starmer and Labour. It looks like that they got their asses kicked last night. The pendulum is swinging across the West. We're seeing in many of these instances here what exactly happened. For over 100 years, it was a two-party system. The British public have just voted in their masses to end it. Labour, left, and Conservative right have just been wiped out locally. Both political parties have been serving the globalists against the interest of the people they go. Now the UK has woken up. And don't forget, there's two parties doing this. There's Restore and Reform. So we'll see how that happens. But there is this kind of a, slight civil war over there. Here, I'm just going to stop this for 1 second because I got to shut a lot of these down. So to reiterate, Pulitzer bullshit. Europe waking up to the fact that there's psyops all around them, trying to double down on censorship and the criminality, and accusing Elon Musk of criminal behavior. But as far as elections go, and the actual proof on the ground, it's not working out for the sludge people. The situation over there has completely changed because of these European elections, and it looks like, are these British elections, and you can start to see which side is more persuasive, and the results are coming in pretty quickly here. Here's a video from the, whoops, that's not what I wanted. Here's a video from Mario Nawfal. Let me know if the audio comes through, just talking about what's going on and the issue. If you're Labour Starmer and his inability to set any agenda and get any traction with his whole branding half the country racist and jailing people for social media posts, which hasn't gone well for him.
If you're a Labour voter now, hide behind the sofa. We got some breaking news in. Analysis now of all of the seats thus far declared. After 10 councils have fully declared their seats, the Labour Party has won only 17%. Wow. 17% of the seats it was defending. Fag packet math time, 83% loss. 83. Bear in mind, I just told you a moment ago, the historic former loss, and we've got to get the specs out for this one. 66% was the former worst loss in 2025. 83% loss. 10 councils who fully declared their results. Labour has won only 17% of the seats. Reform, however, so far has won 56% of the seats it was contesting. Now, bear in mind, Reform wasn't defending any seats. Every seat is a fresh seat. Now, a jubilant Reform UK leader, Nigel Farage, told GB News at the party's Millbank Towers, "I think what you're witnessing is an historic change in British politics. Forget left-right. There is no more left-right. It is gone. It is out of the window. It's finished." As you can see, we are scoring stunning percentages in traditional old Labour areas. We're currently averaging about 39% of the vote of the seats that are in already. We're currently on 145 seats won. Now, that's out of date because obviously that statement was a while ago. It's now 174 seats won for Reform UK. Nigel Farage continues, "We are way exceeding anything that I thought. We are way exceeding anything that I thought." That's Nigel Farage a few moments ago. And when speaking about his predictions later on Friday, he said, "What you'll see tomorrow is the same pattern repeated across the south when we win Essex by an extraordinary margin and Norfolk by an extraordinary margin." It's worth pausing and just going back to that Labour statistic. I've never heard anything like this in my life. 83% of the seats defended being smashed to matchwood. Just 17% of the seats defended.
So Keir Starmer's persuasion game, 0. He gets 0 points. Early results here: Nigel Farage party picked up seats. Starmer is a disaster. It's time for him to go, but he's saying he's not going to go. Here, Basil the Great saying, turns out calling the working class far right racist for the last 20 months wasn't the best idea. Not really great persuasion on his part, right? And Camille Dmitriev here underlines, Starmer seems incapable of ever learning from his mistakes. He wants to continue ruling the UK despite driving the worst historical local election results. He'll be forced to resign despite clinging on. Difficult to sugarcoat forever the consistent and ultimate incompetence. And indeed, I do think he won't be able to continue after this. UK Prime Minister Starmer has refused to quit, but being a loser doesn't really get more people to come and help you, and that's what he's dealing with. And but the biggest loser of all here is like the legacy media in 2016. You know, one of my favorite anecdotes about the 2016 election for me personally was watching, and I'll never forget the 2016 election night, because to everyone else it was a surprise, but to some people it was not a surprise. I settled in to election night 2016 ready to be entertained with victory and a show and a big surprise. And it was one of these weird things where it's like, you know, a secret and you can't really share it with anyone, even if you wanted to. And I remember the feeling I had when we won, or Trump won, but you know, I won in the sense that I had been publicly predicting Trump would win since the minute the Mexican rapist speech not sending us their best happened in June 2015. And I had spent a whole year of people just not taking it seriously, not believing me, laughing at my opinion, and me every time saying, I can't see how he loses, frankly. And when he won, the funniest thing I saw that night was Milo Yiannopoulos. And Milo, what he did was, because he had press credentials, he was in the Javits Center where Hillary had her, I'm going to win party. So Milo went to the Javits where all the media was waiting to celebrate. And I think he was a little drunk or something. But it was the funniest television you'll ever see, because he just went around trolling people on his phone. He was live streaming and he was trolling everyone on his phone, saying, look at and he was showing, just like ugly journalists, fat people. I'm not trying to fat shame. He was fat shaming. So I just want to bring up that he was fat shaming. I'm not doing it. So he went around and made fun of everyone's looks, made fun of their body types, just basically went and told them all how stupid they were, told them how wrong they got it all, and said, look, these are the people telling you what to think. And it was just such great theater. It was Milo at his absolute peak. And I'll never forget how much fun it was, because the way he underlined and contrasted their weakness and their inability to get and how sad they all were that Trump won. Because I mean, the energy was so low in the press room, in the media room, because of Hillary losing and Trump winning, that there was basically just depression around. And as he was the only happy person, he was eating all the ice cream out of their freezers and everything. He was just having a delightful party while everyone else hated their life. And that is, of 2016, the biggest losers in America. And they repeated their loss in 2024. The biggest losers were the top-down media, context strippers, projectors, brainwashers, psychological operations specialists. They were the big losers in 2016 and 2024. And so now that we're seeing the rest of the world, it kind of happened during Brexit as well, but this is even more of a loss for those people. And Jamie Bryson here underlines that the biggest losers of the day in this election in the UK, the biggest failures in this whole conversation, are indeed the journalists, are indeed the BBC talking heads. He says, it's going to be a really tough day for the BBC and latte drinking liberal elite. They are devastated to find out again the vast majority of British people don't actually agree with the sanctimonious nonsense which represents groupthink within the media elite bubble. So that's what's not working. These people who align with power are aligning with power that doesn't exist anymore. It's just power inside the bubble. Power outside of the bubble, where people align with, is changing very quickly. And that's why you're seeing it on the ground. And power is what persuades. And here, James E. Thorne, again, relating this to Iran, relating Europe. Who did I say was the biggest losers out of the Iran war? It's England. It's the United Kingdom. They're the biggest losers. Here we see the post-war illusion is over. Power has a map again. Choke points matter. Shipping lanes matter. Energy and food matter. And the countries that control them matter most of all, especially when backed by the quiet but decisive force of American monetary dominance. Operation Epic Fury is being framed as a confrontation with Iran. That framing misses the point. Iran is the spark, not the fire. What we are seeing is a global audit of power. Who holds it, who borrows it, and who, under pressure, finds it vanish. Lesson of epic fury: China and Europe are exposed. And they're exposed because they simply don't have the persuasion power, because they don't have the money, and they have to use all of this censorship, projection, context stripping. They've got to hide facts. They've got to call you names. They've got to do all of these things. It simply doesn't work. And now, right, they're, as Europe is the big loser here, they're going to just compound their losses. Here you see the Europe floundering on many fronts. But Ursula's plan, of course, is now to go into an arms race. So just as they're weak, just as they're getting exposed for weak for not having any financial plan and for not having any energy, now they're going to go into arms production. Arms production. Europe is going to get armed themselves for war. Okay, Ursula's big plan. They're going to use loans to put Poland, Lithuania, and all these guys getting safe loan agreements. And now their strategy, an arms race with Russia, burdening generations with massive debt to profit arms manufacturers. It's not going to work, guys. It's not going to work. That's why you're seeing the panic around Europe. Germany here with a new Bitcoin exit tax because people are leaving, and they're going to have to go with these measures because arming themselves against Russia and losing the psychological war means they have to flex what little muscle they have left. And in this case, it's taxing people trying to get out of the country. So pathetic and weak. Germany's left party. Now, the good news, the left party doesn't matter. They're losing so quickly, and the AfD is coming way up in the polls. So this is just a stupid brain fart from a failing part of the structure, the political structure in Germany. But it is being described as one of the most aggressive anti-Bitcoin proposals in European history. So again, the reason I bring this up is because remember what I said, that politics, like you heard in the video about the UK, left and right doesn't matter anymore. That the far left, far right, none of that stuff is real any longer. It is socialism versus Bitcoin, and that is the new frame. Republican, Democrat, Labor, conservative, all of it gone. What you're seeing here is exactly the new political polarity, and you shouldn't be surprised that they're attacking Bitcoin in this way, because this is the new political fault line. And Germany failing in the way that it's failing is showing you that political fault line very quick. And again, the future with this propaganda and the media to underline the case of Europe has even made them more vulnerable. Here from Labrador Skeptic, we see, while it's never presented this way in the propaganda media, what is happening in the Ukraine war would have been instantly recognized by European leaders, particularly the Brits, in previous centuries as part of the Great Game. It is much more dangerous this time around. When one nation is growing too strong, the best solution is to set another power against it, using revolutions if need be. This has been their tactic for a long time. Keeping the Russians down was the Brit strategy in the Crimean War, and the Germans sent Lenin to foment revolution in Russia. Now, they're talking about the Crimean War in the 1800s against the Tsar. Even as the CIA and likely MI6 overthrew the Russian-friendly government of Ukraine in the color revolution of 2014, with luck, not only the two fight each other, but attrition will greatly reduce their power compared to those not fighting. Classic stuff. The danger this time around, however, is much greater because the former great powers are themselves minor powers. Germany, France, and the UK are militarily weak, aging welfare states that, after decades of pacifism, don't have patriotic nationalist young men to fight. Applying the old strategy in the 21st century has led to the creation of two fully remilitarized Slavic states, each with massive battle-hardened armies. If anything goes wrong this time around, Western Europe has created an existential danger for itself. The solution, of course, America. In 2014, it was assumed that the great game could be played because America could militarily neutralize Russia or Ukraine if things got out of hand. However, now the unthinkable is happening and the divorce seems to be proceeding. Western Europe is finding itself in a place of intense vulnerability against not just Russia, but also potentially Ukraine. Uh-oh. And that looks exactly like is what's happening, right? And that's why when you go back to this divide and conquer system, like you just heard, and it didn't work, that was pretty much their last card. Now they've got to deal with their system of divide and conquer not being enough to stop themselves from being conquered, because we are indeed back in the world of hard power. Even what we saw with Greenland, right? I told you weeks ago when the Greenland conversations around Christmas time were heated up that basically America now owns Greenland because they were given permission in that deal with NATO to just build in Greenland, and whatever they build is American, and it has nothing to do with what the international law says about the maps and all that stuff. None of that was real. And so you're seeing it indeed how this real power has played out. And Greenland is one of the big stories here. This again is what we're seeing from the American system contrasted with this old City of London extraction, divide and conquer system. This is not the system of extraction. This is a system of building. It is about going to Greenland and actually building stuff. Now, they are going to extract some minerals, but there's going to be a ton of commercial activity around it. And the people who are on site in Greenland are going to get a lot of infrastructure out of this. There's nuclear reactors going in there. There's all kinds of stuff. And that's why the anti-Trump hysteria has once again served America and harmed the EU. While the French media crowd that Paris had made Trump back down on the Greenland issue by sending 15 soldiers there as a show of firmness, Washington was negotiating a mega deal. The U.S. has just secured the takeover of the gigantic Tan Breeze deposit in Greenland by the American company Critical Metals Corp, one of the largest reserves of heavy rare earths outside China. As I have advocated at the time, it would have been, pardon me, it would have been preferable rather than getting dragged into Trump's game around an imaginary annexation of Greenland to negotiate a joint exploitation of the territory's strategic resources. I don't know if our elites are simply incompetent, excessively ideologized, corrupt, if they have an interest for electoral reasons in this hystericization of the debate, or simply so powerless that they have no choice but to pretend. But that as it may, the result is unequivocal. Europe has lost a strategic deposit and gained nothing in return except the illusion of public opinion for having defeated Trump on Greenland, which didn't happen. Trump got Greenland, guys. And they're just going to build out from here. This is just old-fashioned stagecoach, wagon trail American colonialism here. They're going to send wagon trains but this time with nuclear reactors. And of course, they're not going to be on a wagon. They're going to be on some kind of a airlift or whatever. And we're just going to go wagon train this whole continent, or whatever this thing is, island, Greenland, who cares what it actually is. But it's going to turn into a American territory. It's going to turn into American property because Americans are going to build valuable things there. Seaberger reminds us possession is 90% of ownership. Greenland was a great deal. I recall Trump talking about occupying certain parts of Ukraine. Yeah, that's going to happen too. And so you're seeing this real power emerge, and that's what matters. And take a look at Canada. We're not doing the Canada show this afternoon, so I'll put some Canada stuff here now. James E. Thorne saying, for the record, Canada's upstream and downstream alignment will take years to fully materialize. Expanding distribution networks to Europe and Asia and building out tidewater infrastructure is a long-term endeavor. Well, it wouldn't have been had we started under the Harper administration, which we asked to do many times and tried to do many times when I worked there. In the near term, the most practical solution is obvious: increase shipments to the United States. The deeper question is whether Canada is willing to take the necessary steps to emerge as a true resource superpower and a hard middle power in an increasingly competitive world. The era of relying on soft power alone is over. A southern pipeline isn't just a starting point. It has always been the most logical first move. Well, yes and no. A north-south, another north-south pipeline also spells the end of Canada for various reasons, but the weakness of Canada is now shining through. So just as James E. Thorne says, there's not really, Canada can survive all of this if they would avoid any of this trouble and start trying to make money and not get so ideologically captured and falling into the I want to join the EU rhetoric. But we're seeing their power weaken by the day. Here, South Korea officially surpasses Canada as the world's 7th largest stock market. Caleb Hammer saying, even a literal disappearing culture and society beat Canada, LOL. They're, of course, referring to the birth rate. And here's the problem in a nutshell. Here's Tobias, what's his name again? Tobias Lutke. He did Shopify. Here he is talking about what Canada's main problem is. This is the only tech company on Canada's stock market. So Canada's stock market now passed by basically Samsung, South Korea. And now here you're finding out what the problem with Canada's stock market really is, and Canada's economy and markets in general. This is the only tech company on the Toronto Stock Exchange's top 10 index, here describing what Canada's problem is. I might have to restart because of audio shit. We hate the audio stuff, right?
The Trump derangement syndrome in Canada that is just stunning. 60% of people think that the United States is the largest risk to Canada, much larger than like Russia or China would be.
And you think that's wrong?
Of course it's wrong. It's because Canada is a small economy attached to a hegemon. There's been one winning strategy in Canada's history, which is win by helping America win. And that's like Carney is saying that it's over. Everything he's doing, I'm agreeing with. Like, it's like, hey, let's diversify the economy, bang idea. Let's get closer to Europe, perfect, let's go. Asia, let's go. I'm pro all the things. I just really don't think we need to choose. The obvious way for prosperity here is to build the shit out of pipelines, build the shit of our industry, get resources that everyone needs, fucking starting to actually refine the stuff ourselves, because we have the most educated workforce on planet Earth here, and we can literally do everything. It's just the Canadian self-story is we get the resources, other people make the money. And so we've never changed from that. It's a Trump derangement syndrome in Canada.
And that's the British system right there. We have the resources, other people get the money. That is the British system. We are a British colony in Canada for that reason. That's the difference with the American system that Hamilton created, that America lost by getting subordinated to the Federal Reserve and the tentacles out of the City of London. It erased that American system. That's what Trump is fighting to get back. That's what Bitcoiners want to see in the world. That's what's re-emerging in this fight. It's about real power. It's about really producing stuff. Greenland is exactly that example. And as Tobias here says, of course, Canada should be increasing exports to Europe and Asia. We should have been doing that for the past 10 years, 20 years, 30. We should always be doing that. But obviously, you don't have to choose those places over America. It's not a choice. Canada can't get away from America. There's no hope for that. And here you've got the Mark Carney yesterday talking about what the strategic advantage of Canada is, and it's hilarious stuff. So here you get Canada going on about, you get Mark Carney going on about why our oil is going to make make a difference in the market now. Guess why? It's green oil.
One of the key selling points for Canadian.
And this is after the Cenovus CEO says regulations make Canada uncompetitive. So this is the energy industry saying Canada can't compete because of all their problems with worldview.
Conventional energy will be that it's low risk. Canada is the lowest risk jurisdiction.
That's not true. He's saying that it's the highest risk because the regulations make it uncompetitive. You can't get anything done. So the most powerful Enbridge, for example, there's nothing Enbridge, which is a huge Canadian company, right? If you guys haven't heard of Enbridge, I'll give you a sense of what Enbridge really is. Would be one of those companies on the would be one of those companies on. No, that's not what I want. Yeah, here's the here's a Grokpedia list of the largest companies in Canada from 2025. And you can see here, it's all the banks, the fake banks. Brookfield, that's, of course, Mark Carney's company. And you can see here, right there, Cenovus. Those are the two we're talking about here. That's 39 billion, and both of them 39 billion, Enbridge and Cenovus. So these guys have as much lobbying as you can buy. They have as much influence in Canada as you can possibly get. They're saying that they don't even want Enbridge recently said it's not worth it. It's not worth it. We can't invest. These are huge companies that are saying that they can't even get any favors done in Canada. They can't get anything built or created because of the hostility of the regulators. And that's why this stuff is just not going to work. That's why the persuasion game that Mark Carney is pulling here is going to be a zero, because he's now trying to speak for the companies that are complaining, saying, no, they're going to want the green stuff. They're saying it's literally the green stuff that's destroying us. And he's got to compete against America.
Low cost, low marginal cost. We are continuing to work on that. And low carbon. And so getting the emissions down will put us in a position. And I will tell you that from direct conversations with a series of governments across Asia, that's what they're looking for the medium term. That's what the government of Canada is working with the government of
Yes. He spoke with the Japanese. The Japanese, are you sure this oil is green? Yeah, the Chinese were so worried about it. Everyone's worried about it. Everyone's waiting. Please, I want green oil. We need it.
Alberta, in order to produce a comprehensive approach through our MOU. We're making good progress on that, and that's going to make the oil sands more competitive. It's going to make Canada more competitive as part of a much bigger energy transition that's happening. And I can't speak, and I'll finish here, being in Quebec, without observing just the fundamental strength that's given from the clean energy that comes from this great province. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prime.
Well, that's true. Quebec will always be singular in its conditions because Quebec is not like these other places. It's been national socialist for a long time in Quebec. They're not communists. They're not socialists. They're the other kind. I'll let you put together what they really are in Quebec. You have to come to these things on your. I can't say it, or I do, but remember what National Socialism is, and that's Quebec. Okay, and it's always been that way. So that's why you're seeing now. So go back, it's the same old battle plan that you look in the UK. Mark Carney is going to lose a great ally. Keir Starmer is not going to make it, so he'll be even more alone, even more isolated pretty soon. And Mark Carney here, of course, can't actually have the fight on economics alone. He's got to come up with more of the framing and the brainwashing. He's got to do more of the psyops. And he's got to come out and say, no, the world wants green energy. No, they don't. They want energy. They want power. The green part of it doesn't matter, just pure power. If you have to compromise on power for the green, no good, right? Power in its absolute sense is what people are after. Electricity, energy. That's why, you know, go back to that German article, and like I said, what we've learned in America since 2016, this whole myth-making, brainwashing apparatus that's out there. That's why you're seeing it kick into high gear in Canada now. You're seeing this whole thing. It's been days of this, right? Here's the American podcast story. So they're blaming the whole separatist thing. I showed you the two fake articles, the headlines yesterday. There's a study and a report. Imagine they're going just like in Trump in Canada, Trump in America in 2016. Russia, Russia, Russia. It's all Russia. That's why they influenced the election. Give out a Pulitzer Prize. Here's a new Pulitzer candidate. This is a story out of Canada again, where you're seeing the whole foreign influence argument. This time it's around Alberta separation. I will start this over again so you guys can see it properly. Make sure the audio plays. So you're seeing the same. This is literally the same thing. This is Russia, Russia, Russia. More of the same. More of the scamming, fake. Make sure this is the right one. More of the scamming, fake psyops coming through the system. And here you go.
Interference threatening our country's democratic integrity isn't isolated to general elections.
Our country's democratic integrity, guys. Canada's democratic integrity is being threatened by fake podcasters from Russia and America supporting Alberta sovereignty.
A new report revealing international adversaries are meddling in the Alberta separatist debate, which, according to the findings, threatens Canada's sovereignty and national security. The alleged culprits, American and Russian actors who are said to be playing a nefarious and deceptive role in the province's dispute over seceding from Canada. Yeah. Marcus Kolga is one of the authors of the report entitled National Unity Under Threat, Foreign Interference, Cognitive Sovereignty, and the Alberta Referendum. And
cognitive sovereignty. This guy here is giving you cognitive sovereignty, guys. He wants your cognitive sovereignty.
He joins us now to break this all down. So Marcus, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me on.
So talk to us about your findings here. I mean, they're very concerning. And why was this movement specifically targeted?
Well, this movement is targeted just as any other very potentially polarizing issues are targeted. Our foreign adversaries seek these out, especially Russia. They're very good at monitoring our information space, our political ecosystem. And,
give them a Pulitzer, guys. Give them a Pulitzer.
And identifying those issues which have the greatest potential for dividing Canadians. And it's not just Canadians they target most democracies in this way. And so this Alberta separatist issue, at least for the Russians, has been one that they've targeted in the past. We know that in 2019, the Wexit movement was already targeted by Russian state media. We also saw them aggressively target the Ottawa trucker convoy back in 2022. And so we are also...
The convoy was Russian misinformation.
So detecting that they have
their martial law
already tried to interfere, amplify extremist voices within this movement using state-backed, state-aligned platforms. And we need to anticipate more of this. On the U.S. side, we've seen a lot of Magasphere type influencers targeting Alberta separatism. These are influencers who have some of them tens of millions of followers across their social media accounts, YouTube and others. They've been posting videos that have received millions of views as well, supporting some of Donald Trump's claims and provocations about annexing Canada and making it the 51st state. Some of these influencers have actually encouraged the Trump administration in the United States to even invade Canada. And so we're seeing a lot of this. We haven't even got to the count of the petition. And so I think all Canadians need to be aware, and especially our government, and should be anticipating an intensification of these sorts of operations targeting this issue.
All right, so let's talk about our government's role in all of this then. What can the Canadian government...
So this is great too. Now you can see here who is actually behind it, right? One of the sponsors of the Alberta Foreign Interference report that came out yesterday, and that some of the media are now running with is the Canadian Digital Media Research Network. Guess who sponsors them? Don't we love Mike Benz and what he did for us? All these media research agencies. This is just more Media Matters. This is more architecture of deceit here. This is all the same usual suspects. Government of Canada, of course, behind the report. And indeed, enjoy your PSYOP, says Lion Advocacy. Here, same story. CBC has a piece on this yesterday. And that's what happens here. They say CBC's own investigation revealed that the disinformation campaign around Alberta separatism largely came from click farmers and YouTube operators in the Netherlands. Content creators chasing ad revenue by hiring actors and pumping out sensational videos. Meanwhile, the RCMP has told the Alberta government that as of April 2026, they have no credible evidence of foreign interference in the provincial separatist movement. Yet on CBC, Dragon's Den investor Arlene Dickinson insists that there is a Russian disinformation at work when she said, "I find that very difficult to believe that there's no foreign interference in this." CBC anchor Andrew Nichols offered no pushback. The network's own reporting on the Dutch operators did not substantiate the kind of coordinated foreign interference she implied. This echoes CBC coverage of the Freedom Convoy, where figures like Justin Ling pushed narratives of extremism and foreign interference with little hard evidence at the time, narratives that politicians and officials later cited as proof during the public inquiry. It feels like another CBC-driven frenzy. Arlene Dickinson's certainty aside, the stakes here go far beyond a few protesters on Parliament Hill. This concerns an entire province's grievances and future. Painting legitimate discontent as the product of foreign puppets risks alienating people further rather than addressing root issues. Brody Fenlon, as editor-in-chief, it might be time to dial back the hype and stick closer to the facts on the ground. And it's not going to work out that way, guys. They're going to keep pushing this PSYOP, and they're going to keep pushing this narrative. And in the end, that's why Canada is going to fail. It's not going to make it. I believe all of these events, if you're already looking at the story in Alberta right now, the polling for separation is somewhere in the 30s, let's say 30%, and you still haven't seen a leader of the movement. So one will emerge from this. And all of these missteps on the part of Carney are just going to continue to radicalize people, like pushing this Russian bot thing, tying Alberta separation to the convoy. This is going to continue. They're going to keep trying to tie the Alberta separation to the trucker protest in 2022, which couldn't be better for Alberta separation. Let me repeat that. It couldn't be better. If you were trying to help Alberta separation, the thing you would do is continue to attach it to the truckers' protest, because that's what everyone worries about. They worry that Carney, and he said several times now in different ways, sneaky Carney ways, that they'll just do the Emergencies Act again like they did with the truckers, and that is basically the end of Canada. If they try and pull that around the referendum, I promise there's no way the country survives at all. And we're on the fast track towards that now. But again, there is no person who's going to be able to rally Canada. There is no mythology anymore that connects Canada. We say, Seaberger asks here, where are the alpha Canadian males? Canadian hockey players must be alpha. They should stage a revolution. Most of them like the United States. And many of those hockey players, there's way more Canadian hockey players that live in the United States because there's way more hockey teams in the United States than in Canada. So the Canadian alpha males are just not buying this myth from the Liberal government. The mythology that kept our country together, the story behind the country is gone. And it probably can't be resuscitated. Quebec has a story. Alberta has a story. Ontario has a story. Regions have stories. But the actual federal entity, it's too hollowed out now. It's too burnt to death. It just doesn't have the amplification that is needed. It doesn't have, what America has. America has all these mythologies about itself. Canada doesn't really have those. Remember, Canada was founded by a bunch of shitcoin railway startup folks who needed the last of the money in Canada after London cut off the colony after the Civil War to try and put the money together to build canals and railways and all that. And so that's what they did. And they were all sort of bankrupt at one time or another. They all got caught up in the 1970s, 1870s economic crash. And, even our first prime minister in Canada, Sir John A. Macdonald. We don't think of them as founding fathers. There are no founding fathers of Canada, right? That's not how they're described internally. Some people try to do that, the founding fathers of Canada, but even I would correct them. They're hardly founding fathers. That's an American mythological frame. They're founders of Canada, but they're not founding fathers. They're scammers. They were legitimately scammers. When Sir John A. Macdonald was prime minister the first time, he left office on the heels of all of these financial bankruptcy scandals with some rail line. And when he came back, it was basically like, he was innocent of some, obviously corrupt judges and all that stuff, and then ran away and came back into politics. And by the way, all about tariffs. He was a big tariff guy. Canada had all kinds of tariff questions around at the beginning of their country. So Canada probably just doesn't have the economic power, the myth-making power, the storytelling power to keep the country together. Mark Carney doesn't have the persuasion to keep the country together. He's going to go on this thing with green energy, not going to work, while also threatening. Have you noticed Carney's getting like a Bell's palsy thing? It's not exactly Bell's palsy like what our old prime minister in Canada, Jean Chrétien, had. He had a crippled face, right? So he was always like this, and his face was crippled. But what I find funny about Mark Carney right now, I'm just perceiving this, but it looks like it's getting worse. His face is now slanted. So he's always talking about on one side, his mouth is like on an angle, like his face is slanted, slant six face. And so one side is now, let me see if I can catch it for you on one of these videos. I think his physicality is actually starting to betray him. And let me see if I can catch it in this image. It was less pronounced in this, but you'll see what I mean. Not a great one, actually. Let me try and find another one here where I can better. Yeah, here it is. Still not a great one. Let me see if I can, I'll try one more here. Anyway, I find it funny that his physicality is starting to betray him, and you're getting this creepy smile out of his face all the time. That's very crooked. Yeah, here's a better version of it. You're seeing it. This was at the Governor General speech the other day that he made, and let me see if I can. So his mouth is starting to go sideways, and when you hear people talk, talking out of the side of your mouth. This is one of these people who will lie, but everybody can see it, and it's not going to work out. He's starting to have actual physical changes in his body, and he is literally talking out of the side of his mouth. His mouth has gone crooked and onto one side of his face. It's not Bell's palsy, I don't think, anyway. But this might actually get worse. I think it's going to get worse as his persuasion weakens and his ability to, change people's minds and be a leader goes away. I think he's going to get more and more into that. So here's the difference, though, of his ability to push a myth, and his ability to tell a story, and his ability to not be crooked-mouthed and talk out of the side of his mouth. See, there it is. This is what you're going to see. It's always crooked now. It's always crooked. It's just a little observation on my part, but it's going to continue to limit his ability. Every picture shows a distinct left side sag. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So here's the contrast, and this comes from James E. Thorne again. He's been great, by the way. This guy, and he's been doing some, let's say, protection of Mark Carney's identity and all this, while admitting he's getting his ass kicked and losing, saying, he's a practical person. He might be able to save Canada if he gets all this energy stuff done. But here you see what I think. He's asking questions. Is it possible? He's saying. He's not a. He's saying that Mark Carney is not a globalist anymore because he's clearly just trying to. He's clearly just trying to go roll with the punches and stuff like that. But when you hear him start to sell Canada's advantage as green energy, I don't buy it. This is what I do think is happening. And James E. Thorne here underlining the United States is uniquely positioned to pivot from a fragile post-1945 order by leveraging its foundational covenantal identity to reverse civilizational decay, unlike rigid traditional empires. By combining hard power advantages, AI, energy, and currency with a Jeremiad instinct for self-correction and renewal, the country can reform through crisis rather than succumb to it. So what is Jeremiad again? I knew what it was. I had to learn it for this. But it's an American thing. Here it is. A long, mournful complaint, literary work, or speech that bitterly laments the state of society, often predicting its downfall due to moral decline. Named after the biblical prophet Jeremiah, it combines intense criticism with a call of repentance or reform, often delivered in a passionate, drawn-out complaint. And in Wikipedia here, they talk more about how it fits into America. Use in American culture, the Jeremiad was a favorite literary device of the Puritans and was used in prominent early evangelical sermons like Sinners in the Hands of the Angry God. Role in American politics, according to the Canadian literary scholar Sack Van Bursevich, in a typical American Jeremiad, the biblical promise of a perfect society contradicts the actual mistakes of American society. The Jeremiad thus has the function of a social corrective in that it links salvation to the righteous behavior of Americans. Bursevich found this pattern in many political speeches. The role of America as a myth and concept of salvation is an important part of the political rhetoric of the United States and is described, among other things, in inaugural speeches. America is described as a world and salvation history experiment with a role model character as a vision, and also cited self-accusatory and apocalyptic tones. It corresponds to a civil religious tradition of rhetorical millennialism. So when he says here, Jeremiad instinct of self-correction, you're seeing that play out in reality right now. You're seeing exactly that play out in real time. You're seeing exactly that play out here. And even when he says, when you hear James E. Thorne say, by combining hard power advantages, AI, energy, and currency with this Jeremiad instinct, just look at everything I've said so far about Carney, about brainwashing, about censorship, and money is what funds it all. And, remember this whiteboard, because this is everything that you just heard from Thorne. That's the bank run top down system versus what he's saying, this Jeremiad, this recovering mythology, right? Combining hard power advantages, AI, energy, and currency. That's exactly what I have in my model. It is exactly this myth making and this storytelling and this persuasion that is flipping this whole information framework on its head and flipping this top-down structure into something that we recognize in Bitcoin as bottom up. That's why I wrote this board years ago, why this board is exactly what this guy's talking about. It's exactly this. It's the energy, the hard power, the decentralized nature, the currency versus this top-down system. So this is what persuades now. It's this bottom-up system. And as James E. Thorne said, getting into the mythology, getting to the Jeremiad part of what's going on, you're going to see this leverage that's needed to alter the mythology. And again, no country in the history of the world has changed as much as America has in its history. There's nothing like it. There's no empire like it. That's, to me, the most amazing thing of America, is that it has this capacity to change, just like he says, right? By leveraging its foundational covenantal identity to reverse civilizational decay, unlike rigid traditional empires. They've done this many times already. This has happened before. And seeing it happen again, seeing America completely change its entire mythology, completely change its entire direction on a dime like this quickly between 2015 and now, really between 2008 and now, we're creating an entirely new country, an entirely new way of persuading, an entirely new structure around all of this stuff. And so the leverage that you're going to get here from this new system, the end of this top-down structure, which clearly isn't working. Look at the UK, look at Mark Carney, zero persuasion on their part, nothing, none of it works. And what we're seeing here, what he's reminding us, this Jeremiad, this new storytelling method, this new way of encountering and persuading, this bottom-up system will create the conditions for change. And it's got the self-correction in it. And he just says that it's, like I said, that the old systems were top-down. This one is bottom-up. It has this renewal, and it can reform through crisis rather than succumb to it. And boy, oh boy, are you already seeing it. I mean, the Jeremiad that we're seeing out there, is that not what you're seeing from these Spencer Pratt videos? This is a Jeremiad right here. This trailer is exactly that. This is America and its failures. This is America and its renewal. Not many countries are capable of what we just saw here, right? And Brian Romelli even predicting, from this moment on, AI political ads, official or not, will get folks elected. The single person with a prompt changed everything. LA voters need to be informed. I will not express my voting insights. However, tools of production have been democratized. And just think again, go back to this Jeremiad frame of Spencer Pratt, right? Who is Spencer Pratt? Spencer Pratt grew up in California that delivered all of the public services in the background without much fuss. And consequently, one could live out the California archetypes of the surfer, the burnout, or the party animal, and it was more or less depicted in the movies. His fury is about his house in the Palisades burning down, but it's also about a California that was made the lifestyle depicted in the feature films and reality television shows impossible regardless of wealth. The state's ideological capture has forced people who would rather think about casting decisions or a nightclub opening to start thinking about politics, which is good, because someone like Pratt has a better understanding of the California dream than a rigid, humorless apparatchik like Nithya Raman, who views the state as raw material for an ideological formula. Pratt is still an underdog, but his candidacy is a sign that Angelenos who were famously apolitical are waking up to the reality of political corruption and dysfunction. If you're in LA, vote for Spencer Pratt. Why I've been predicting for a long time that California is in play, that these Jeremiad stories are changing the world, and that what we saw from this change of top down to bottom up, and why I have humor there is because humor is a part of this mythology. And Spencer Pratt leaning into this humor, leading into this storyline, leaning into this crestfallen world. Again, the Jeremiad is about those things, right? It's about America as a myth and a concept of salvation, and that the social corrective that is possible now, and salvation of Americans through righteous behavior. Not a lot of countries would bathe in the self-criticism that Spencer Pratt shows in this Joker video and underline this. But America can withstand this type of self-criticism and move forward. And it also creates the art and the entertainment that is so necessary. That's why I put in my pyramid the laughter and the entertainment, because the entertainment industry and its failures is a big part of the demand for change in America. And you're already seeing it make a difference. Right here, we see, wow, Spencer even got mainstream press to do real journalism. We've been hollering about the hurricane wind lie for 16 months, and they're finally correcting the record. So look at the effect that this storytelling is actually happening on the American system. It's pretty amazing. And here you can see the CBS News with their new owners and everything. We have to always remind that the new owners there do make a difference. And what we've seen from all of this is a change. So here's another audio clip from CBS News talking about one of the lies and the fact checks that Karen Bass now has to live with.
LA's first mayoral debate got off to a heated start.
She's an incredible liar.
No name calling,
She just
please.
lied, though.
But a few exchanges caught my attention because they touched directly on a year of reporting I've been working on the LA fires, being published by Simon & Schuster next week. So let's fact check some of what was said, beginning with the wind.
The winds in the Pacific Palisades never reached higher than 40 miles per hour. For those first 6 hours, they didn't go above 27 miles per hour.
He talked about the winds. That is just completely inaccurate. If that were accurate, then the planes would have been able to fly.
Weather modeling reviewed for my reporting shows winds in the Palisades during those first several hours of the fire were in fact under 40 miles per hour. Planes could and did fly. The stronger winds intensified later in the evening, and that distinction matters because the earliest hours of a wildfire are often the most critical for containment. Second, Mayor Bass's trip to Ghana. She addressed this directly.
It was one of the worst moments of my life
Oh.
to not be here when my city needed.
And her voice failing her like that is another one of these same things like Carney, their mouth going crooked, right? Talking out of the side of his face. At a certain point, you physically do damage to yourself by lying. Like the spiritual damage done ends up manifesting physically from being such a scammer. And she's not gonna be able to scam much longer. I predict she's out. I predict she gives up. I don't think she makes it out of this.
And it didn't matter where I was or why I was away.
But according to multiple sources with direct knowledge of the emergency response, it did matter where the mayor was. My reporting found Mayor Bass knew about the dangerous weather before leaving for Ghana. Communications to emergency managers described her as only being, quote, out of state.
Out of state.
And
I'm in
while
Ghana.
she was overseas, her office continued posting on social media images and videos that appeared to place her in Los Angeles. Sources told me,
I believe I made a prediction when the Palisades fire started in 2025, January, that California would turn red as a result of this. And I think we're seeing it now.
the lack of clarity created confusion during the opening hours of the fire. Fire Chief Kristen Crowley did not initially know the mayor was even
I
in Ghana.
forgot her.
And according to sources
Fire
and
chief.
records reviewed for the book, after Bass was briefed by the chief on the growing fire, she still attended a cocktail reception in
Oh,
Ghana
isn't that nice?
and did not respond for more than an hour to messages from Los Angeles officials offering and asking for help during that critical stretch of the fire's expansion. This isn't about politics, it's reporting. And as the fire becomes a part of the mayoral race, voters are likely to learn a lot more about those first critical hours.
Voters likely to learn a lot more. Not going to be good for Karen Bass. Not going to be good. And indeed, you know, here, this is why I predict Karen Bass is toast. The most shocking moment from the mayoral debate that nobody noticed except Karen Bass' very expensive lawyers is that she just undermined her entire Palisades fire case by contradicting her lawyers, admitting on live TV the Palisades Reservoir was for wildfires. Her attorneys have consistently fought Spencer Pratt and the 10,000 other fire victims by claiming the reservoir she had drained was for drinking water and not for firefighting purposes. Victims' attorneys have been fighting her on this for 16 straight months, and she just admitted it. An incredible liar just made an incredible mistake last night, and she will be hearing a lot from a lot of lawyers today. And so that's why I predict she's on her way out. And indeed, that's why you're seeing in America that all of these, you know, Democrat plans, why you're seeing everything that we're going to talk about. We're running out of time here, so we'll go a little quick. But why you're seeing this pivot now in American Democrat politics over to not new policies, not just lying, but actually just breaking the system. And here is Victor David Hansen talking about just that. Let me get it up here. I'll have to cook for the last few minutes. Where am I? There we go. So here's Victor David Hansen basically describing why Democrat talking points are changing to just flood the Supreme Court, get everyone undocumented voting. Here, Victor Davis Hansen just delivered a devastating breakdown explaining Democrats' desperate strategy to hold the power. Democrat policies are so unpopular They no longer believe they can win voters, so they're now trying to radically change the system of governance instead. It seems to me that the Democrats have lost confidence in their agenda. In other words, they don't believe that the voter really does want an open border, and that the same is true of critical race theory or critical legal theory or the emphasis on fixations on transgenderism or the Green New Deal. So everything that I was just saying about Canada applies here too. They're sort of giving up on these ideas. That's why they have to go with Russia, right? You put that all together and the message of the Democrats is not appealing. And so, of course, in the short term, their strategy has been, we're not Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a fascist. When they look at those long-term prognosis, they get very angry. And so what is the reaction? It is to change the agenda to win over the vote? Nope. It is to change the system. And so if you want to know why they want to get rid of the Electoral College or why they want the census to count residents that could be here and in many cases are here illegally, maybe 30 million, if you want to know why they want to pack the Supreme Court, is that their message right now does not appeal to 51% of the people. Their only alternative is to find radical changes in the system of governance to allow the unpopular agenda to be what? De facto popular. Democrats would rather break the system than fix their failing agenda. And that's the whole scene yesterday, or so that's, what explains this in Minnesota, right? Democrats voted unanimously to not require the removal of dead people from Minnesota's voting rolls last night. Not persuasive. And we're in a persuasive game. You got to measure what's persuasive. Here you've got Jen Psaki here saying that Democrats are going to be all riled up because they have a primary this year. They get to choose their own leader, but that's not true. Biden's press secretary, Jen Psaki, says she's excited about 2028 Democrat presidential primaries because people get to choose. There is no dark room where people sit around. They decide who the nominee is going to be. Cool story. But in 2024, Biden drops out on July 21st. Harris nominated under 48 hours later via virtual roll call. 0 primaries, 0 votes from actual Democratic voters. Delegates elected for Biden simply flipped to her. No debate, no contest, no open convention. They scammed twice before for Hillary Clinton in 2016. Bernie never stood up because he was probably being blackmailed. Same in 2020 with Joe Biden. So it's at least 3 elections since they've had an open primary. You can go back further. They didn't have one in 2012 because of Obama. Lots of people saying that 2008 against Hillary was a complete and total scam because that's the beginning of the Clearmatic and Dominion voting machines in Venezuela. So that would be the Democrat primary from 2008. So the last Democrat primary that is without question is probably 2004. And that's 22 years since they've had a primary. So I guess that's why Jen Psaki's all excited. It's been 22 years since they've had a legitimate one. And that's why, indeed, you see them freaking out yesterday. This is what happened. They did a January 6th yesterday in Nashville. This is around the Tennessee State House where they did the redistricting of Tennessee. And of course, it turned into a big crybaby fest, right? What is happening in this video from the Tennessee State Capitol is empirically worse than anything that happened on January 6th. Question, should we expect libs to throw a new January 6th every time they lose? Is this the norm? We'll see. And the whole narrative is so much more hilarious when you find out who the representative that lost the seat is. There's someone having a good time. It wasn't that. It was the fella who, where is he? We love that guy. Where's the fella who lost, though? I thought they'd have his picture in this roll-up. Oh, I wasn't even sharing the right one. Yeah, this we love the KFC guy. He had a good time voting for this. Everyone's laughing at him. Democrats are staring at a future where they're under 180 seats in a good election years and bouncing down to 160 in bad years. Same thing. Massachusetts is more red than Tennessee is blue. Massachusetts has not had a Republican member of Congress in 30 years. If Mass has 0 red districts, Tennessee should have 0 blue districts. Democrats are just mad that Republicans are finally doing the same thing they have been doing for years. And that's what's going on. Gentle reminder that when a Troon terrorist murdered 6 people at a Christian school in Nashville, These same people stormed the Capitol to celebrate the dead shooter. So it's the last time they did this. It's all the same people that did it this time. The big takeaway, though, is that is also not persuasive anymore. If you're on the right, you've seen this playbook 1,000 times. Show up, raise hell, scream obscenities, blast bullhorns, and generally make yourself a nuisance as much as possible in the hopes that your incessant public wailing will intimidate the very people you hate. But that's why this no longer works. You already hated them before redistricting even happened, and they know it. Increasingly, the average Republican understands that these people view them as the enemy. So why bother trying to placate them? These sorts of antics by leftist agitators no longer phases us like it used to because we hate you too, is what Christian Hines says. And that's what you're seeing bear out. That's why this is just not persuasive anymore. It's just not working. And there's new myths, new stories being told. And that's why here Ben Hart, again, with his crystal ball after the new Tennessee redistricting, continues to predict that midterms go entirely the Republican way. And it's the same with all of the socialism in the cities, and, you know, seeing Ocasio-Cortez as pretty much the only one they've got that's out there making any kind of difference. She goes on in an interview yesterday and does her best, right? So she comes out and says, you can't earn $1 billion, right? It's not possible. A huge portion of progressive political thought is based on leftist folk beliefs about how the economy works and a nagging suspicion that anyone who is doing better than them must have cheated. And indeed, you know, convincing Americans they can't be rich, not going to work. Here, Democrats are losing because their most culturally relevant political figures still preach woke ideology like it's 2018, and they can't let go because wokeness is their moral North Star. For the first time in my life, the left is behind the times, and it is increasingly hilarious. And because she said that yesterday as well, Black people created democracy in America. And why it's all going so communist, right? People should understand that this is not new stuff for communists. Mao used the exact same tactics. Told various minority groups in China that they were the true heirs to China and they must kill the oppressors to take back what is rightfully theirs. Playbook never changes. They're doing the same thing now. And indeed, here, the big takeaway from all the primaries this week is that GOP voters want aggressive action, not principle losing. They want to win. Winning aligns, right? Winning aligns. And that's why people are understanding that all of this civil war amongst Trump didn't work either. Indiana spooked them. They thought they had Trump and MAGA contained. They thought they could ignore Trump. They thought that MAGA was weakened, split, and easily put back in the corner. They believed the fake polls. They figured their podcast bros caused more than enough agitation within the base. They thought that without Kirk and by attacking his widow nonstop, they ended the threat of TPUSA. Indiana showed them they were totally 100% wrong on all of the above. Indiana showed them they don't have the midterms in the bag. Indiana showed them that Thune was wrong to not accept the deal from Trump endorsement for Cornyn in exchange for the SAVE Act passing. Indiana showed them that their podcaster doomers were nothing but digital noise. Indiana showed that they thought they had accomplished over the last year was nothing but a mirage. Indiana showed them they got zero ROI on their efforts. Indiana was a watershed event, not because the incumbents lost, but because everything they thought was true was proven wrong. So there you go. I wanted to get to more Star Wars stuff and Obama stuff, but we're coming up on the end of time. I miscalculated my time today. And I was reminded about my time at miscalculation because I saw Hank show up. Hank, how you doing, my man?
I feel like the bad guy now. I'm depriving your audience of Obama and Star Wars stuff. What's wrong with me? I'm sorry.
It's the Mark Hamill thing. Mark Hamill.
Oh, I saw that. I saw that.
Which one did you see? The calling for death or the Chicago thing?
The calling for death, the one with the tweet, the AI tweet. You can't do that. You really
it's not a good look. It's So we were talking, you know, there was you might like this. This is I think some framing you'll like. So I had done this whiteboard a long time ago. Let me see. Because we were talking
like a whiteboard Rolodex or something of all your previous ones.
I do. Yeah,
Nice.
I reuse them a lot. Some of them are some of them can last. You know, some of them are good enough to keep going. So this is maybe even one I've showed you before. This is just a persuasion matrix, basically. bank run world being top down, needing broadcast media, energy industries, all that, and then people in the bottom, versus the bottom up world, which is this confluence of energy and decentralized systems and currency. And we had this fella, I might have already taken it off, dang, no, I already erased it. It was another note from a guy describing persuasion in America and Canada around what's going on, and he used the word Jeremiad, and I didn't know what it was.
I don't know what
and
that is.
it's an American mythological type of framework of redemption, of like America suffering because they've done something wrong, but they can renew itself if they behave better. It was like a Puritan thing. And I put the Spencer Pratt videos in that context of like, here's what's wrong. And I showed just how persuasive, because the laughter is important in this, in my graph here, in order to, the funny part is important. And I think movies are just going to be trailers now that are funny. And you're seeing the Spencer Pratt thing have its effect on American politics. And I continue to predict it will be a sign of things to come. And there will be no one going to watch the Star Wars movie next week as a result of Mark Hamill's
Is there a Star Wars movie next week?
Exactly.
I didn't even know. Man.
Imagine not knowing there's a Star Wars movie.
Star Wars used to be incredibly important. What happened?
Yeah, I remember. Just in January, there was all these like, what are the top 10 movies coming out in 2026? And it was like He-Man and this and that. The Star Wars movie wasn't even mentioned. Imagine, not even mentioned in the top 10 of the year before it was even a failure. Not even mentioned in the top 10 of the year.
Well, they've kind of watered down that whole universe, right? It's because they're trying to like profit off of it so much since George Lucas sold it. I feel like it kind of takes away some of the cachet, because like you just keep expanding that universe. Like, doesn't it kind of make everything a little less important by its very nature because there's more of it?
I think they could have got away with expanding it. They tried to graft on a story and subvert the originals with, it was like gender swap. First of all, make a reboot movie where you gender swap. And then they went with the whole reverse expectations in the second one, where the point of the movie is to not give you what you want. So they make Luke Skywalker a loser, and all these things that just people, basically it comes from the Joseph Campbell monomyth world. And that was actually, when Disney first bought it, I was enthusiastic because they had made all of those classic movies in Disney in the 80s and 90s, Little Mermaid, Lion King, Aladdin. They were all made when the writers asked the question, why is Star Wars so popular? And they actually distilled the Joseph Campbell monomyth book, which is what Star Wars is based on, into a writer's manual. And every Disney writer had to understand, that the hero encounters some call to action,
hero's journey kind of thing.
Hero's journey. It's exactly the hero's journey. They turned it into a writer's manual. And so when it was first bought, I said, well, they get it. That's a natural buyer. And they just threw it all away. They tried to make it a girl brand, and it's not a girl brand.
No, it's lasers and lightsabers and explosions. It's kind of if girls like it, more power to you. But like, let's just call it what it is, right? Like Barbie's not a boy brand. Sorry, it's just not.
And they didn't have a girl problem. Like Princess Leia was a pretty cool hero, and Padme Amidala was one of the best characters of the prequels. It's not like there were no girls. It's not like I get why Lord of the Rings wants to inject girls into the storyline, because there are none.
Right.
That wasn't the case.
Wasn't what's her face from Lost in Lord of the Rings?
But she's a written in character.
Is she? Okay.
Evangeline Lilly. Yeah.
Evangeline. I love her.
No.
She's
even the Liv Tyler from the original movie being the hero, that was written in. That's not.
Real. I didn't know.
She's a real character. Yeah. But you only really learn about her at the end to explain why Aragorn is so devoted to the war and winning. That was his special prize that he could only get if he won.
Got it.
So, no, that was when she comes and saves Frodo at the beginning of the movie. That was all we knew before, and Peter Jackson explicitly said, can't have 9 hours of movie and not a single female character. Like, it's not going to work.
Too many dudes.
It's just too many dudes. And he was right about that. He did a great job. It was a minor character. They just replaced her, strength, put it into that. It was fine.
We'll take it. I'll be honest, I've never actually seen the Lord of the Rings movies.
Well, you got to read the book. Well, the book. No, actually, you know what? I'll go out and say that the movies are better than the books. It's one of the only times I will be happy to say that. The books were they're great. I loved them as a kid, but they're so long for what you actually get out of them.
That kind of time. Yeah,
a lot of exposition.
Even for those movies, they're like 3 hours, right? I don't get that kind of time.
They're great movies. They are great.
I have a hard time buying into the fantasy realm with like orcs, and I need it grounded in a reality that I can buy.
I will say that the Hobbit they did the 3 after they did Lord of the Rings, then they did the Hobbit. I didn't like those because those are just killing. It's just 9 hours of killing orcs. That's the whole story. They just like
orc lives matter, dude.
All,
orc lives matter. That's all I'm saying.
Orc lives matter. I think that's what it even. They rebooted Lord of the Rings on Amazon. It's the biggest failure in the history of television failures. I think it's the most expensive budget ever. Nobody watches it, and they actually go with Orc Lives Matter. Like that's part of. Like, I'm not kidding.
That's a problem.
Orcs have kids now.
No wonder it was so
they're
bad.
all sad. Like they're like the elves are like doing genocide against them, and so they got kids, their mothers now, and they just need to feed the orcs, man. The baby orcs.
This baby orcs always getting overlooked. My goodness. All right, Nolan. Well, we got to get rolling here, so I'm going to let you wrap up.
What's going on in the show? Tee it up.
Lot really quick. We're talking about the UFO files were released. Excited about that. Apparently, El Nino is supposed to be the worst one we've encountered in the last 150 years. So we're all screwed.
You have to always play the Chris Farley video of El Nino if you want to talk about El Nino.
We'll have to get the team to buzz that one up. And we got Kenny Florian joining us in the show.
Oh, no way. Very cool.
Excited to have Kenny here, figure out what's going on with that whole White House fight. This is America now, so we're excited
like the White House fight. We want to go check out the White House fight.
Yeah, it'd be cooler if they like just cleared out the Oval Office and put like fake furniture in there and had them fight in the Oval Office.
Dude,
now we're talking like breaking the Resolute desk or a fake like that would be.
Yeah. No, even those gold things that Trump's put everywhere. Bang.
Yes, like a cage match in there.
WWF, though, not a real fight.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah.
That would be an awesome WWF. Sure. We'll have to write into one of the McMahons about that. All right, I'm gonna let you wrap up.
Awesome,
I'll
man.
see you Tuesday, buddy. Have a nice weekend.
Peace. See you later, Hank.
Bye.
All right, folks. You heard Hank. We got some fun stuff. You'll find out more about the big fight at the White House coming up on July 4th, America's 250th birthday. That'll be fun. Hank getting great guests on the show. He sure is, everyone. He sure is. All right, folks. I'm out of here. Thanks for all the great comments. Forked Mouth Syndrome, MMK007. You're a great observer. Thank you. We'll see if it works out that way. If his face becomes more crooked, then you heard it here first. So everyone, remember, no Canada show this afternoon. That's the end of my news. Enjoying with all of you people here in the mornings. I will see you all Monday morning for another time together, another great awakening. Peace. You'll see the logo. Thanks for watching. I want to tell you, thanks for watching. Have a great weekend, everyone. Peace.